Hello, and welcome to BoomerTech Adventures mini course devoted to taking fabulous pictures of the flowers and the plants and the animals that are all around us. This is one of 4 videos, and in it we're going to explore the editing options in the Photos app on our iPhone or iPad that help us create spectacular images. This is Jill. Let's get started. If you don't have your iPhone or your iPad with you, go get it, open it up to your Photos app, and then just pick a picture, any picture to play with. We are going to deal with 3 aspects of editing: cropping, effects, and appearance. I think you're really going to be amazed if you've never played with these editing options, what you can do to transform a kind of mediocre image into something that is pretty spectacular. So, you've opened an image. Now, if you look, you will find the word edit. Often it is in the upper right-hand corner. Tap Edit. Your screen will change and you will see a series of icons. They may not be at the bottom like they are on this particular image. They may be down the side, but you'll find them. And the 3 that we are most concerned about are effects, and you see the yellow arrow pointing to the 3 intersecting circles. Crop or cropping, which is that square that's kind of on the diagonal with tails and little arrows. And lastly, appearance, which is, well, it looks like a clock or a timer to me. It's a circle with dots all around it. Those are the 3 icons we're going to be using. So let's start with cropping. Once you tap the crop icon, you will notice that your image develops thickened corners on the border. Now, they don't turn green like I have in this image on the left. I simply made those green to make them stand out. But you will notice that the corners get considerably thicker than the rest of the border. Well, to crop, you just pinch those in with your finger. Now, why would you crop? Well, you might want to get rid of something that you really don't want in the picture, but mainly we crop to create an image that really grabs the viewer's interest. And we think about some of the techniques we learned in composing a good image, such as the rule of thirds, where you think about an imaginary grid, or you have your grid turned on your camera, and you want your focal point to be where those grid lines intersect. So in this case, I wanted to focus on the flowers of this begonia. And so that's what I did, and they are in the lower quadrant where the lines intersect. But you can see in more detail the coral bells plants, the 2 right above the begonia. So it's kind of fun to play around with, and again, you don't lose anything. If you make a mistake, you revert to the original and you try again. Now, cropping gives you other options also. Once you tap that cropping image, which in this screen you see is over on the left, and you see there's a yellow dot under it, which means that's what's active. Look up at the top on the left, and you will see 2 icons. One looks like a triangle, the other looks like a square. These allow you to flip the image. The triangle allows you to flip it on the horizontal, and the square, you can keep flipping it 90 degrees and totally turn it upside down. This is really handy when somebody sends you a picture, I don't know, via email or texting, and it comes into your device upside down. Well, if you import it into Photos, you can turn it right side up with this particular section in cropping. Now, over on the right, there are a couple of other options you can do when you're in the cropping mode. The first is straightening. You know, sometimes we think we're holding our camera straight, and then when we look at the image, we notice that the horizon goes uphill. Well, that's not helpful. However, in this cropping option, there is a straightening mode. And you see it there. It looks like a globe with maybe the equator cutting through it. If you tap on that, it will straighten your photo. Then the other two icons have to do with perspective. And I'll show you an example. These, I think, are really fun to play around with to give you a different overall appearance of the particular image from a different perspective, maybe emphasizing something that you don't normally see in your original. So let's look at a couple of examples. Here you see I've flipped. No, I literally haven't flipped. I flipped the picture. Okay, so the original's on the left, and that pretty petunia is facing towards the sun, which is on its left. But I thought it would be fun to have it the other way around, so I tapped that icon, the triangle icon, and it flipped it on the horizontal. Now here's where I played with perspective, and you can see it sort of distorts the petunia. And again, it gives a kind of different appearance to the original. So people who like to play with creating images for cards or calendars, they might find playing around with the perspective pretty fun and interesting to give a different look. Now, here's a really good piece of advice having to do with cropping. When we're taking pictures, and we want to bring something close up, we are so tempted to take our two fingers, instead of pinching them together, we pinch them apart or spread them apart, and the picture comes closer. Now that works some of the time, but if you do it too much, what happens is the image begins to pixelate, and that means that it will get a little fuzzy and not be as crisp as you would like. So it is better to take the picture and then go into the Photos app and crop it. And that's what I did with this adorable mother raccoon who was raiding my bird feeder in the middle of the day. I cropped it so I really could see her face. I could also tell very clearly that she was a nursing mom. Never got to see the babies, sort of disappointed in that. But again, think about cropping rather than trying to get a close-up from a distance with your camera app. Now let's look at effects. I think these are fun. You're looking for the icon is the three intersecting circles. Now in this example, my original's on the left, and then when I opened it in Photos and I tapped on the effects icon, I played around till I got to silver tone. Now this silver tone turned it to a black and white image, but with an emphasis on the silver aspects of the picture. Do I love it? I don't know. It's different, and it's, again, as I keep saying over and over, it's fun to play with. If I don't like it, I can send it to the trash can. I don't have to keep it. If I want to think about it, I can leave it in the Photos app and come back at another time and make a decision. But it's interesting to see what I can do with that original image. Let me show you another. Here's a hosta. Same picture, only this time looking at it through two different filters. The one on the left is called Vivid Warm. And you notice that the hosta leaves, the blue is emphasized, the green in the background is pretty subtle, the green foliage in the background is pretty subtle. But look to the one on the right, where the effect I'm using is just vivid. Well, everything is certainly more vivid. Look at the green foliage in the background and compare it to the one on the left. Those leaves are much brighter, almost a different color green. And the hosta leaves also have a totally different appearance. So once again, the editing mode of effects allows you to take one picture and create several different effects with it, which you may choose to keep all of them or none of them or some of them. But it's an interesting option to play around with. And I do use that word play around with all the time. Okay, now the appearance adjustments. These are amazing because they allow you, if you've taken an underexposed or an overexposed picture, to fix it. Or if the colors seem washed out from what you remember, you can fix them. So in this case, we're looking at a picture of a nasturtium, and I adjusted for light and color. And the nasturtium blossom is much brighter than it is in the real world, as are the leaves a brighter green. And you can see the icons down there on the bottom. This was on my iPhone. And you see that the icon I'm working on is brilliance. And you see underneath there, there's a slider bar, all those little hash marks. Well, all I had to do was slide my finger up and down and stop where I liked it. And then I could go on and play with some of the other adjustments. Now, you be sure to download our sheet on editing tools because it defines what each one of these icons does. And that will give you some additional information to use as you are making your adjustments. Again, on the iPhone, the adjustments, this is the iPad, they're on the side. And you can see the slider bar and you can see the different icons. And again, as you tap each icon, the definition or the word will come up that tells you what adjustment you're working on. Now here are some examples. This is, I'm sure you'll recognize that it is a very common flower that you find in your garden. Have you come up with the name yet? It's a marigold. Beautiful color. But of course, I had to play. So I adjusted the exposure, brightness, and contrast. And I brightened it up. I think the colors reflecting more light, the green foliage in the back is also reflecting the light. I don't know that I like this one any better than the original, but it's again interesting to me to try the different adjustments and see if I can come up with something that I like better or is just different. Okay, now you're going to see the difference here. This is a lovely white peony, and you notice that it has kind of a delicate yellow center. Well, never content to leave things as they are. In this case, I adjusted the brilliance, highlights, and shadows. Now, I have to tell you, neither the leaves are that green in nature, nor is the yellow that bright. However, if I'm not going for capturing the natural world, if I'm looking for something that is a little bit more striking, playing with these adjustments allows me to do that. And so if I were creating a greeting card or a calendar, I might take the time to indeed enhance the colors of the natural world. Other people would be offended by that and say, no way. Well, that's okay. But again, it's a personal decision. And the wonder of digital photography and digital editing that it allows us to play around with the appearance of our images. Now, here's one more. This is a beautiful bird from Zimbabwe. It's a tawny eagle, and not a bad picture. And I'll be honest, I was not using my iPhone. I did use a camera with a zoom lens. However, I did the editing in photos on my iPad. So I looked at it and I said, well, I wonder what I can do. So I gave him a Mediterranean blue sky, which probably is not accurate for Southern Africa. And I upped the vibrance of his feathers. And I think the feathers maybe are a little bit more realistic to what I saw, that my camera didn't pick them up. But I do enjoy the deep blue behind him. It makes the colors of his wonderful body stand out. So in this case, I edited for hue, saturation, and highlights. Now, the last icon you will see will say vignette. So if you look at this picture, you'll notice that the corners are kind of blackish, kind of faded out. Well, it creates this image of really focusing at what's in the middle of the picture and blending out what's at the corners. And it's kind of like the old-fashioned pictures we see from the late 1800s, the early 1900s that have shaded corners. Well, that's what a vignette does. And again, if you are creating cards or calendars or slideshows, you might really enjoy using the vignette option to create a picture that looks different than the ordinary image that you see in everybody's Photos app. So again, something to try out. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is markup. This is a lot of fun because you can personalize your photos. You're sending something to a grandkid or a niece or a nephew or one of your children or a parent, and you can actually put their name in. So if you look closely at that image, you will see there's a gray circle with 3 dots. And if you look at your iPhone or your iPad, you will see that same circle with 3 dots. Tap on it. What will appear is, like on the left, there will be a palette of colors and markers. You can see that there are 3 different size markers. Next to them are an eraser so you can fix any mistakes. There's a ruler. Then there's a choice of colors, and you're not limited to just the blue, green, black, yellow, and red. If you notice, the one in the lower right-hand corner is kind of a rainbow effect. If you tap on that, you have a whole array of colors you can choose from. Now, with the markers, you can use your finger or an Apple Pencil to draw or write on your image. However, if you tap that plus sign, what pops up is what you see on the right, and you have more options. You can do text, which means you can type, you can add your signature, you can magnify an aspect of the picture. Somebody pointed out that would be really good for people who sell on Etsy or eBay, that they could magnify a detail. You can put shapes in, a speech bubble, and an arrow. So again, lots of ways that you can mark up or personalize a particular image. So here's an example. I kept it very simple. I typed in hi. But I could have typed in, hi Megan, hi Ella, hi Zach, hi Landon. I could have typed in a name. But I chose just to keep it simple because I love the orange of the fall pumpkins. So, as we come to the end of this video, my big idea that I really hope you remember is that even if you're disappointed in your original image, you can literally work magic if you're willing to spend the time in the editing options on your iPhone or iPad's Photos app. I hope you have found this particular editing video helpful. I remind you that there are additional videos in this course, and if you take the time to watch them plus download that editing tools PDF, you will really have a lot of strategies in your personal toolbox so that you can take wonderful pictures of the flowers and plants and animals, whether they be in your backyard, whether they be in a park that you visit, or if you are traveling the world in some exotic locale. The idea is to have fun, be creative, but also be thoughtful in your photo taking. That's it for this video. Again, this has been Jill from BoomerTech Adventures. If you've never visited our website, BoomerTechAdventures.com, I hope you will. It would be really nice if you liked us on Facebook. And if you enjoy learning through video, I really encourage you to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe so that anytime a new video comes up, you will get a notice that it's there. Bye for now.